I never thought I'd be settling down in Mexico, but here I am.
Hey Gen Max, you just met Mike and he has been a van lifer for years and he is now settled here in Todos Santos, just outside on the otro lado, which is actually, it was just 6 minutes from my place here to get here. So really pretty close and just down the street from Veda if you saw the video with her. So we're gonna do our typical kind of go through and hear the story of how Mike ended up here. We're gonna also interview his neighbors because there's a few folks living a little on this tiny little community here, and also kind of get the standard Spanish security, things like that. So let's dig into Mike's story of before he was here, where was he?
Basically, I went on the road 6 years ago to complete an around the world trip. And then COVID happened, various things occurred, and I ended up coming down to Baja, and for the first 4 years, spent most of my winters in Los Frailes, which is over on the East Cape. Never really anticipated being stuck in Baja, but fell in love with the culture, the people, the food, and everything else. And we actually were drawn here to Todos Santos to complete Spanish school. So we came over here, and what we thought was going to be a 2-month journey through Spanish turned into a 6-month, which turned into an 8-month, which turned into buying property. And here we are.
Okay, so Mike is a nomad traveling on his own typically in his truck here, but he's using the word we. So I want to find out who we is.
I say we. The we involved in this is that at being a full-time nomad on the road for 6 years, you inevitably meet other people while you're traveling. So one of those guys was my buddy Bert. I met him maybe about 3 years ago. At a Vanlife event actually in Arizona. And he came down to visit me here in Todos Santos while I was going to school. My buddies, Kevin and Brenda, I've known for many years. I actually grew up with Kevin. We went to high school and school back in the day, which was a long time ago. And so we kind of reconnected. We had fallen apart, meaning we hadn't seen each other in probably more than 20 years. And then as it works in this nomad community, we were both out on the road, traveling around, and we ran into each other at Tybee Island, Georgia, funny enough. And we kind of reconnected, and then they came down a number of years ago to visit me down here in Baja. Ended up, similar story to me, ended up staying for the season. And then we came to school here for Spanish together. And our goal, actually, Kevin, Brenda, and myself, was to continue on going down the Pan American Highway and going through mainland Mexico and Central America.
So then I want to know what caused that shift from the plan to go south to the new plan to stay put.
That is a great question. I think largely had to do with my background is in real estate. And I'm always looking for properties or looking for what people are doing locally. And I just kind of started dabbling a little bit in the real estate around here. And I think Kevin and Brenda were getting a little tired of living in their Mercedes Sprinter van. It was a little small for not moving about. So we started talking about maybe creating a home base. And then when Bert came to visit, we just sat around, I guess, a campfire one night, basically, and said, hey, we all are travelers, but wouldn't it be nice if we had a place, in the southern part of our sort of travel area to go do other trips from? Because I think as nomads, each one of us has always had various places in the United States, as an example, that we go back to. I stay with a buddy in New Mexico. I go up to my property in Montana. There's certain places that you always feel like are kind of like, bases of operation, if you will. So I guess that's how the genesis of finding this property that we now call Rancho Nadie Lo Sabe.
So that is Rancho Nobody Knows, and it's after a Saturday Night Live skit. So you can check that Saturday Night Live skit out up here, but be sure to return to this video because we're going to be doing a tour of the site. We're going to be checking out the vehicles here, the non-vehicle, the containers, things like that. So maybe actually what we'll do is we'll start getting a tour. We've got a little bit of background, and I want to make sure that I get a little bit from each person here. So I'm going to have Mike give an overview of the site first from the front door into the septic tank, I guess. So just so we get an idea of the whole property, and then we're going to zoom in on his part.
Just give you the general overview. This is obviously our front gate to the property. As you can see, Rancho Nadie Lo Sabe. And we're going to go through and take a look. When we built the place, we basically all decided to split the infrastructure, which is consistently pretty simple stuff, right? We've got a 10,000 liter water tank right here. And then we've run lines underground, so we each have water hookups. And then we installed a biodigester, which is a form of a septic system, but it's sort of environmentally friendly, I guess you would call it. That's at the bottom of the property, which is convenient because things flow downhill, right? So we have septic hookups on each of our properties. So Bert here is at the top, and this is his little area. And you can see he's got his van, he's got his nice deck in the middle, he's got the container down here, which he's building out right currently. And then going down the driveway, and then we also obviously split the bill for the gravel and whatnot, which has turned out great because we had so much rain this season that we had no washouts, nothing. We basically, covered the entire property here with either gravel or pea stone, so erosion proof. And then my section here is in the middle, which I have my big expedition vehicle on one side and the container I purchased on the other. And I've kind of created I like the garden look, so I'm big on that. I've got my old Land Rover that I drove across Africa in, so that's my around town, go to the dump vehicle, if you will. And then if we keep walking down here, Kevin and Brenda elected to avoid having to build out containers and purchased a nice big fifth wheel. So they kind of established here with their RV, and they've got their Sprinter van they travel with, obviously, and an old Volkswagen Thing, classic little car there.
Hey, I just wanted to thank you all for supporting me on Buy Me a Coffee. And if you are not yet a supporter over there, I would love it if you became one. If you contribute $5 a month, you get some behind the scenes footage. It really helps to make this channel come together. What I make on YouTube, not so much. And I really want to make this my retirement project. So thanks to all of those who are supporting me, either just like $5 one time or $5 a month, $20 a month, whatever is right for you. Thank you so much for the support.
All right, we're going to take a tour of the big expedition truck, but that's coming up. So first, I'm going to show you kind of around the property. There's my motorcycle, which is my trusty around town machine. And then coming back here, I've kind of created a garden space, if you will, and I've made sort of little different sections. So this is kind of my morning coffee sitting area. Right behind it, we have three animals on the property. Two are cats, and one is the expedition turtle, who he's got his own thing. He's a 10-year-old tortoise that I've had on the road with me, actually. So he's pretty famous in his own right. And then if we'll come down this way, because it's Baja and the weather is always pretty much perfect, this is my dining room. So in the traditional sense of being in a house, it's not that. But outside here is the dining room. And coming this way, this is kind of where most of my cooking happens. I've got an outdoor grill. I've got a Tembo Tusk scuttle, which for those of you that are not aware of what that is, it's similar to, I guess, to a wok. But I do most of my cooking on that, actually. And then you can kind of see I've got outdoor sink. My bathroom it's a real bathroom with a real shower and a real toilet and a sink and everything, but it's kind of outdoors. And my motivation behind that was that I could stand in there, take a shower, and actually look and see the Pacific Ocean while I'm taking a shower. So it's primo. And then inside the container, Bert and I had our own ideas of what we wanted to do with the containers. Mine is really focused about sort of just a living when it's inclement weather or something that I don't want to be outside, which is not very often. So I put a bar in. I've got my oven, my microwave, my ice cream machine, the refrigerator, all that stuff in here. And then this section over here is sort of my casita. And for those of you that are used to big houses and whatnot, it is certainly not that. But this is my air-conditioned area, which serves as my office / bedroom. So you can see the bed goes up. I've got a couch down here, which I could sit back and watch my TV. And this is sort of where my YouTube magic is created here at the desk. So on the other side of the staircase over here, this is what I call my feng shui garden, if you will. I've got my outdoor chimenea if I want to have a real wood little fire, and then I've got a propane fired little thing down here. So if we want to sit here, I built this at a park bench. I saw that on YouTube, actually. You can make it out of cinder blocks, because as you know, down here in Mexico, everything is made out of cinder block. And this is kind of, I circled it around with mostly desert plants. So I tried to plant things that grow well here in the Todos Santos area. So then let's go upstairs. This I call my, well, I call it the Mirador del Pacifico, which is sort of the lookout over the Pacific Ocean. And every night, generally, we come up here, watch sunset or whatnot. Pacific Ocean is down there below. You get a nice breeze. And this is my rooftop deck. And then obviously behind me here, you can see this is where all my power comes from. So you got all the solar panels on the roof and a backup water tank. So if we ever ran out or we're going low on our main tank, I have another backup tank on the container. All right, I'm going to give you a quick tour of my overland expedition rig. This is a 2002 former U.S. Army truck, actually, that I completely custom built. Kind of turned it into a 6-wheel drive Class A RV, if you will. So if you come on inside, you kind of have everything that you need to live in. You've got a refrigerator under here. We've got a double bowl sink. Cabinets are all around. I've got a microwave oven. I've got stovetop. I've got a real oven. And if you turn around going the other direction, I have my bed is down this end, a full walk-in shower. That was one of the keys of building this truck, is I wanted a real shower that you can actually fit in with a separate bathroom that has the toilet and the sink in it. Ample storage for, wardrobe and hanging clothes and whatnot. And this is obviously all air conditioned too as a habitat. And then in the front I have an office, a fold out table. And this has been my home. This is actually truck I've been my home now for 2 years. So I've been on the road for 6, but I'm on my 3rd truck. And top secret, but I'll give you a leak here. There's another one that I'm going to be building down here in Baja coming next. So that will actually be the 4th truck.
Okay, well, before we move on to Bert's section of the property, I know that you guys love numbers. So let's hear about what this property cost, about how much they have put into it in terms of fixing it up. And of course, let's hear about how much this truck costs too, because I've always wondered.
So one of our goals, actually, when we decided to purchase the property here, was that being nomads, we try to shun stuff, right? We try to go minimal. And we didn't want to put a lot of money into a quote base of operation. So we bought the property fairly inexpensively. It was in the low 40,000 US dollars for the property. And then we did improvements on it, like the water and the septic and whatnot, and gravel. And it really didn't cost us a whole lot. If I had to estimate right now, between purchasing the container, building out my property, and like I said, we did almost 100% of the labor ourselves, including like building the container, cutting it, and everything else. I look at it, I'm probably into my section for $38,000 total. So that's not a lot of money, right? And I could presume that the two of them are also in the similar. So you're looking at a completely built out property that we live on fairly inexpensively. And that was one of our criteria to make sure that we weren't impacting the local economy, meaning that, you hear gentrification and all this other stuff. We really wanted to make sure that we supported the locals. We try to go to, local restaurants and support the local people. We had some laborers come on to do the stuff that, we weren't capable of, like putting the septic in. But as you know, here in Mexico, laborers and, renting a piece of equipment like a backhoe for the day doesn't cost a ton of money. So that was kind of the prerequisite, was not put a lot of money in. And in my opinion, it was like, don't spend more money than you're willing to lose. I guess look at it that way. Everybody asks me, and this is a loaded question, so I'm willing to answer it for sure. They always ask, how much is the truck worth, or how much did it cost to build? So what I will tell you is, the truck itself compares to vehicles that you'll see marketed for between $400,000 and $1 million US for products that are of similar build. The fact that I do it myself, and in fairness, heavily sponsored by a bunch of different products that are going into it. If I had to take a guess, I think I looked at this, and it's probably a $200,000 to $250,000 investment realistically. But like I said, that number is a little bit, you can go here or there. The bottom line is, what I like to say is, it's probably the cheapest cost per square foot of any kind of overland or van life build out for what you actually get from a military truck, because they're pretty inexpensive to purchase the base vehicle.
So y'all might want more information about the truck specifically or this property. And luckily, Mike has a YouTube channel too. So you're going to find that one linked down below so that you could go and check out much more detail about all of this great stuff here. But let's go ahead and meet Bert next. Okay, so we moved a little uphill now, and we're going to interview Bert and find out what his story is and get a quick tour of his section of the property too.
Hi, my name is Bert, and welcome to my little slice of heaven here down in Baja. I've been on the road traveling in Ernie since about 2018, when I actually came down to Baja, a place called La Ventana, and I saw some guy pull up in a conversion van, and I was instantly hooked, saying, I have to do this. So I flew back home to Los Angeles and went to a dealership to find me a white van, and lo and behold, a few days later, Ernie shows up, and I start building that out, and been on the road basically ever since. I retired at the age of 47 after about 20 years in the Air Force and aerospace, and said I was done. I saved enough money that I can live passively on it and give me the lifestyle of being retired, and I don't want to go back.
Great, I love it when people can retire at 47. That's awesome. And part of it is living a more simple lifestyle. So we're going to see more of his lifestyle here. And also we're going to hear a little bit about the decision to stop traveling and kind of have a home base here in the Todos Santos area.
So my story this time starts in Baja. I came down about October, a little early. I was not planning on buying property. I was actually trying to get all my sailing certifications so I can buy myself a sailboat and do the boat cruising life around the Caribbean. But for some reason, I ran into my buddy Mike, who I known from a previous van events for about 2 years. And I don't know where the idea came. Someone said, let's go look at some property. I'm like, okay, we could try this out, what do I have to lose? So, and the real estate agent shows a few properties. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. But when the real estate agent dropped us off this one and they told us how much it was, I'm like, okay, looks like I'm moving to Baja. So, and that's really how it started. So it's a blank piece of land here, and going from a week earlier I wanted to be sailing, and next week I'm like learning how to put in septic systems. So that's what eventually led me to this little slice of heaven in Baja, and it's been absolutely enjoyable ever since.
So these guys have been here just over a year now. So I want to hear kind of how things are going from the nomadic life on the road to having a spot with construction next door that I'm hearing, and a beautiful view of the ocean that you wake up to every morning. So let's hear a little bit about how things are going.
It's actually gone pretty well. I thought I'd get a little stir crazy if I'm not traveling as much like I was for the past 6 years, but I've thoroughly enjoyed putting down roots here in Baja. Don't get me wrong. There's a few times out of the year where I'm itching to get back in the van, and that's normally when I'll drive back up to the States and cruise around Arizona and so. But for the most part, I just like exploring, El Triunfo and these amazing little places like La Ventana around down here. So having this as the home base where I can take off and go somewhere for, you can get anywhere in this place in about 3 hours has been good. But I actually I have to admit, I wouldn't tell my old van life self this, but I actually like having roots right now and have a consistent routine down here in Baja. But I do. I have to get away once in a while.
So Bert has the van that he can get away in, also has a motorcycle here for getting around. So let's go ahead and get a tour of his part of this little community here.
So I'll give you a little tour of my little slice of Baja heaven here, but the first thing I got to give you a tour is Ernie Jr. Ernie Jr. is my palm tree, and it's his 1-year birthday today. I think it's grown a total of that much. So I thought it'd be a lot higher, but Ernie Jr., it grows at the speed it wants to do. But this was the first addition to my property, so let me show you around. So actually right here, this is where Ernie lives. lives under the sunshade. And besides September, the sunshade actually keeps it pretty cool down here, so I've never really actually had a problem. I didn't have AC this summer, and I still managed to survive, even though everyone says it was the worst summer in about 20 years. But so I made these little walking paths. One mistake we did do early is we put way too much pea stone down. We put a whole truckload of pea stone, so I've spent a good, oh my gosh, I don't know, 20 man hours putting pea stone from here onto that road over there. So to develop these nice little walkways. But one thing I do have here is my Serenity hammock. I'm gonna hang out on my hammock. Okay, let's do that again. Or you put that in.
Can I leave that in?
Yeah, you can leave it in. So, and action. So
there we go.
It's my nice little Serenity hammock here. So I enjoy it during the daytime and the nighttime. I also, as you can see, the property is full of plants. I thought I'd never be into plants. My mom's happy with me now, but I got my succulents growing, all my crown of thorns, my agaves, and of course you've seen Ernie Jr. So let me walk you around. So more palm trees. These are my sea hibiscuses. They're looking pretty scraggly right now because they're going through transplant shock. So hopefully I can get them nice and bushy and green and give me some shade around here. But as you can see in the background here, here's my shipping container. These were the first things that me and Mike put down on our property. I've divided up in 3 sections. One, the casita, my gym, and then we just got the normal garage. So I'll show you. But actually the second thing I built on this property was this actual patio, so I can walk in from Ernie and be on the patio as we just interviewed, and place to hang out, stay here. And then I got my beautiful little bench here, so I can watch my sea hibiscus drop leaves. One day it'll grow some leaves. So, and then this is my little crown of thorns garden. And then I have all these little succulents and cactuses I'm trying to grow. And once they grow a little bigger, I'll supplant them into some pots. So then you got the banyos. I want to give you a tour of the banyos. First banyos ever made. It's very simple. It's got a little shower in there and a toilet and everything I perfectly need. And the water, it comes from the tank there, so it's probably normally about 80 degrees. So maybe a month in January it gets a little cold, but other than that, I don't even have heated water in there. So I got that. Then up here we got my barbecue grill. It's a little dirty right now. I'll actually use that here a little bit. And got my telephonos hanging, and I got a sink. So I got basically all this basic essentials I need to be, living basically here in Baja and absolutely loving it. So let me show you the casita right now. It's not built out. This is the first month I've actually started. I put it in the sink today. So, but eventually Ernie's going to go back to the States, and I was going to go into storage in Otay Mesa in San Diego, so I can just easily fly up to Tijuana and grab it and go travel up there. And I'll live full time out of here. And eventually I'll have like a small pickup truck to get around Baja. But here's what I have so far. So just a basic sofa. I got the refrigerator in today and the sink system put in. So I think it's 12 feet by 8 feet. And I'll eventually have a bunk bed right here and a desk, and this will go in the actual gym area. But it's based right now, so my goal is to build this out in about 2 months where I can be able to live here. Next month, air conditioning is going there, so that's a plus. So I finally installed my solar system, so I have enough solar to do that. And let's go over to the gym. So here's the centerpiece of actually my gym. I needed a gym to be down here, so I didn't know if they have one. They actually do have one in Todos Santos. It's pretty nice, but I wanted one for my personal use. So slowly I'm building that out as funds become more available. But right now, it's just a basic weight set that I can use. I have the bike outside, and this area over here will be eventually a sofa, some storage, and a little hobby shop that I'll work on, and the bikes will go on the wall, and I'll have more equipment in here. So, but this is gonna be dedicated to basically spend most of the day in this room and in the gym. So this is Ernie. Ernie is a 2015 Ford Transit high roof. Like I said, I got back in 2018. I bought it the dealer bought it at an auction. It used to be an old wedding cake delivery van. So I knew I got a deal. It wasn't one of the big FedEx ones that had 200,000 miles on it. So it only had about 22,000 miles on it. At the time, I I think I paid around $25K for it. I think they're a little more pricey now. And the entire build cost me about 10K. My whole goal with this build is to build what I call the prototype version of it. I'm an engineer by trade. So I was going to build a prototype of it, then slowly upgrade it as my skills and building stuff became more efficient. But I ended up liking the prototype. So the one thing I had is I call it battle the rattle. There's nothing more annoying when you're driving down the road and something's rattling and it's driving crazy. So I made all these 1/8 inches so nothing touched. So when I actually hit the road, I did such a good job I didn't want to touch it again because the rattling it wasn't going to make me happy. So, but that's it. Basically everything you see here is built from Home Depot. So nothing fancy here. So I say here's my electrical systems down there. So I only run a 300 watt inverter, which is basically to run the laptop and the Starlink and the actual monitor. So no induction ovens or anything like that. I have 300 amp hours of batteries. They're lithium from Battleborn. And that's the water system. So 12 gallons of fresh water on board. And, you know, basically groceries, you know, just basically the essentials. Since Ernie doesn't move a lot anymore. And clothes. So, and like most designs, here's my kitchen table, here's my dining room table, and here's my desk. And you know, and there's more storage, and the Ingenious is down here. So what I like about Ernie is, since it's made simply, if this breaks, I can easily go to Home Depot, get a slab of wood and slap it on, and don't have to worry about it. Because one of the pieces of advice is I tell people who are going to do van life for a long time is stuff breaks. And there's nothing more annoying to be in the middle of nowhere and something expensive breaks and you have to wait 3 months to get the part. I just have to find the local Lowe's or Home Depot and screw it in and I'm back on the road. So it makes it a lot more enjoyable, so I'm not stressing out about fixing my $5,000 cabinets. So the one thing that makes my van build unique from most van builds, and I got to thank my mother for this. So when I originally started building the van itself, everyone's talking about how to build walls. You know, you put, you know, wood on the side of the walls. And I said, maybe I can do a different approach. So I worked with my mother and I actually developed wall pillows. So they're basically insulated pillows with magnets on the back of them, as you can see right here. And these start off as temporary, but they become so good and so efficient and just so lightweight that I think I saved about 500 pounds in sidewalls just on the van alone. So that increased my gas mileage. So I have wall pillows in each of the major sections. And one of the bad things about building out the Ford Transit, because the walls kind of curve, so it makes it a lot harder to build, unlike it, you know, a Ram ProMaster, which are straight up and down. So I got wall pillows on both of these sides, and actually up here on the ceiling I have another wall pillow. And my mom put this little national park map up there. So thanks, Mom.
Okay, we are heading down to Brenda and Kevin now as the sun is starting to go down a little bit lower in the sky. We're going to meet Brenda and Kevin.
Hey, we're Brenda and Kevin. We've been on the road for probably about 8 years. And we came down here, believe it or not, to go to Spanish school. I don't know if you heard this story or not, but we came down here just for like 2 months of Spanish school. We were on our way to Ursula, Argentina. And we ended up, next thing we know, we're buying property. We don't even know how it happened. Next thing we know, we're down there with Bert, or with Mike, and suddenly we're in the realtor's office. We got this property here, and I guess we're staying a little bit. And we've been here for about a year and a half, and we've been talking to a lot of people who are down here in Todos. And interestingly enough, a lot of them have similar stories. They're like just in Todos for, you know, a couple weeks, and the next thing you know, they're buying property, and here we are.
So let's hear a little bit about what life is like here, kind of on this property, especially compared to being on the road. And we've got Cabo over there. Cabo's the cute cat that came and greeted me as I walked in the front gate. So yeah, let's hear what life is like here.
Yeah, life down here is quiet. I mean, I've got a 6-mile walk that I take every day with Mike. We've got our kind of activities. On Tuesday, we've got New Restaurant Tuesday, where we go out and find a new restaurant in Todos Santos every Tuesday and we go to it, which is actually pretty easy. And it's a small town with only like 7,000, 8,000 people, but for whatever reason, there's like 150 restaurants. We haven't figured it out yet. But every week we go to our new restaurant because there's so many of them out here. Friday we go to a brewery called Las Tunas Brewery, and that's probably about a mile away from us. And then sometimes we go to Baja, which is another brewery. They're kind of detecting a theme here. We go a lot of brewery type things.
Speakeasies.
Speakeasies, yeah. There's a couple of those in town. Yeah, it's very quiet life. We're retired now, so we don't have a lot to do. Besides, I got my little hobbies. Brenda's got her little hobbies, and we just kind of relax. It's a great place to be. We love the people down here. They're super friendly.
So when these guys were on the road, they were in a Sprinter van, and things have changed a little bit here. The other guys bought containers and have turned those, kind of built those out, or are working on in the process of building them out. But these guys went in different directions. So let's hear a little bit about that.
So when we started on the road, we were in a Class A RV driving around the States for 7 years. And then we got the idea that we wanted to do the Pan American, Alaska to Argentina. And we got a Volkswagen Westfalia. And we spent our first winter in Los Frailes on the Sea of Cortez side, where I just got back from, because I love it over there. And the Volkswagen was way too small. We were there,
3 days.
3 days.
3 days.
And we decided, okay, if we don't want to use the bathroom outside in Baja, we're certainly not going to want to do it in Alaska or in the mountains or the rain in Central America. So that was not going to happen. So actually, when we were down there, Kevin flew back and found our Sprinter van, Winnebago Revel, which is perfect. Indoor bathroom, 4-wheel drive. And we ended up coming over here for Spanish school, and then kind of got stuck. And we were in the Sprinter van. The Sprinter van is fabulous when we're driving and moving. I could park it anywhere. I can parallel park it. It goes anywhere. It's great. Living in it in an RV park for 6 months when it's hot and humid, it's a little small. And we were ready to kill each other. Let's put it squarely.
Well,
I was ready to kill him.
She was ready to kill
So when we decided to buy the property, it was like, no, I can't wait to build out a container. If we're staying here, we need to get out of the van now. And it turned out that friends happened to be selling their fifth wheel, and they were in Southern California, and we worked out a deal where they drove it down here for us.
Well, let's get a tour of their portion of the site, including inside the fifth wheel.
So this was the ugly side of Mike's container, and I couldn't stand looking at it. So we have a movie screen in the middle, and we found an artist in Cerritos on the beach who was actually from Mexico City that was painting surfboards, and he came and painted the murals for us with both paintbrushes and spray cans. We're very happy. It's got the Pacific on this side, and the Pacific's over there, has the mountains over there, and the mountains are on that side. So kind of works out. Furniture is just kind of a mess still trying to figure it out. We have our fire pit here, which you can see we get rid of cardboard. The fire pit will hold a pallet, full-size pallet, throw it in. We did our little gardens. I'm trying to do more native plants that don't require water. So I have less flowers than the guys do, but I have way less maintenance. My bottles are trying to cover up the concrete. That's a work in progress. And then we have our lovely parking. We have the garden from HELL. Can I say that? It kind of exploded during the rain last fall, and now I can't touch it. Anything in it. I'm throwing those rocks in it, and hopefully that'll keep the weeds down because I can't touch it. And palm trees that someone was saying come to our farm and dig up in town. They put it on Facebook. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll go. And I took the big one, and it died, but it threw off a friend. And then most of them all started that size. Mm-hmm. So those big ones are that size. And then I'm also the plants that Bert and Mike don't want anymore. They kind of throw them down here. And I take them because we need to do the retaining wall. We're at the bottom of the property. So kind of catching that. Here's my lovely little hide out of the sun with the mountain views. Except for I have to check it for lizards every day before I get in it. There's always lizards in there. And here is my pride and joy.
Ooh.
I have a washing machine. Very thrilling. And we reuse the water for the gardens, which is why the guys throw their plants down here, because their water, they need a lot of water. So throw them down and they get to use it. That's basically just aloe on the fence line. Watch your head. I plan to do a little garage here, like cover it like Mike and Bert's bathrooms to hide the bike and get things out of the sun. And it's a work in progress over there under my clothesline, which will move. That will be our kitchen. We just have a table in the scuttle for now. And then we have 2 options for the deck. 3 stairs. Or
For 2 stairs.
yes. Well, I guess that would be 4 if you're counting this as 2.
Oh, yes.
But that was good when Kevin's parents visited us. And then we have another kitty at the door.
Oh, it's indoor kitty?
No, she comes out, but it's around the 5 o'clock hour. That's when they get to come in for churros.
Oh, very nice.
And then they get locked in for the night.
Ah.
And this is basically our 5th wheel. Chairs, dining room, TV, kitty station.
Fireplace?
Yeah. Oh, fireplace.
Very nice.
It takes a little bit too much electricity though, because we're off grid.
Off-grid.
Yeah. Kitchen. And up a couple stairs to our bathroom and our bedroom.
And since the RV's never going to move again, we've done some things like we pulled out the RV toilet that was in here and replaced it with a real one because we're like, this is
A porcelain toilet.
Yeah, this is too cagey for us. We're going to live somewhere. We're going to have a nice toilet. And same thing with the mattress, things like that. We've just done things to make it much more comfortable since this has never moved again. Also built a structure on top of the RV. I don't know if you noticed it. And I did that for a couple of reasons. One is the top of the 5th wheel is curved and it has a lot of protrusions on it. So it's not very friendly to put solar up there. So by putting a scaffolding above all that, I have a nice flat area for solar. Also, one of the secrets down here to keep cool is always shade. So these types of RVs are normally hot when the sun is hitting them directly, but our RV stays pretty cool because the actual scaffolding provides shade for the RV. So you actually see a lot of RVs down here with kind of garages built around them just for the tops to keep them in the shade. And the final thing it does is the sun is really destructive down here and it protects the roof of the RV from basically the sun damaging it and getting water intrusion. Not that we have a lot of rain, but there's some.
So I like to wrap up each video with kind of some advice for y'all. So let's get some advice here.
So for me, I think living in Mexico, there's an adjustment and expectations. Everybody on this property has been on the road for many years, so we're used to kind of living off the grid. We're used to living in a situation that might have different, let's just say, bathroom expectations, different power expectations, different road expectations. We're used to driving on all these dirt roads. And coming down here, there's great places to live as long as you kind of switch down to thinking about, well, maybe it's not so bad if I live on a dirt road. Living off the grid, it's not scary. I mean, every time we turn on like the computer comes on. We want water, our water comes out. If we want hot water comes out. If we want a shower, we got a shower. But it isn't the way you do it in the United States. So we're not hooked up to the grid. We don't have city water. We have our own septic tank and things like that. So just kind of adjust your expectations for down here. And you can live down here for a reasonable amount of money and extremely comfortably if you're just thinking about, well, I just want to do things maybe a little bit more like the Mexicans do and maybe a little bit less like we do up in the States or up in Canada.
So that is great. You can live like an American, like a Canadian here if you want, but there's so many more opportunities if you choose to live more like a Mexican and kind of accept that you can find a lot more adventure if you live on a dirt road. Not everywhere has paved roads, and if you're looking for that, you're going to pay a premium. you can find things that are a really great deal and really just amazing properties if you just change the way you think about things. So that's some great advice for you. And I've got some more videos for you. First off, I've got something from Mike's channel, and then actually Bert has a channel that I didn't mention before. That's down here. So check out those videos next. From Todos Santos, hasta luego.